All right, so it is time to rack up some more testing miles on the Olds. Since we put it together, we've been incrementally testing and building up. We started testing it at the Summer Showdown, ran into some issues, had to park it early. We've been running at some local autocrosses with Fairfield County Sports Car Club. They've actually been at Lime Rock in the B paddock there. I've released some footage. I don't know if I've released all of it or what videos have been out by the time this one gets released, but we've just been working through the bugs. It hasn't been the most exciting. I mean, truth be told, it's been kind of frustrating, but it's to be expected with how much we changed on the car going into this year. It's mostly just been little things, which is what's been killing me, just little electronic bugs or sensors malfunctioning or needing reconfiguration, little glitches and things like that. So it's definitely a little disheartening at times that, obviously as a competitor, I just want to be out there focused on driving and, trying to compete for the win in class or top packs, things like that. And really, I'm just having to babysit the car most of the time. But little by little, we're getting there and figuring it out. And, we're bound to have teething issues. So it's a bit unrealistic to think that we're just going to put it together with so many new parts, especially so many experimental parts, and think, it's just going to work perfectly and as intended. But I mean, on the whole, it's actually been working pretty well. Things like the ABS, the new engine setup, been flawless and have honestly exceeded expectations in some ways. And also like the MCS damper package has been pretty awesome, but I'll make separate videos about that stuff in the future. This video is about going up to Lime Rock in the Proving Grounds, which is where we host our autocross events, but we're actually going up to do one of Lime Rock's official lapping days. So Lime Rock does a series of events throughout the year. I think it's April through September, maybe it's early October. And they kind of run it like a mini road course. So instead of doing what we do where we set up a point-to-point autocross, they set up a little circuit configuration. You actually go run laps on it. I've run laps there before with other organizations on a similar layout to what we're doing tomorrow. But it's a good next step in starting to ramp up the speed of the car because with all the changes we've made, there's the potential for things to go really sideways. I mean, we're figuring out that a lot of stuff is working, but obviously going in, it's unknown. And personally, I don't want to jump straight into a road course with all these new changes. So we're building up to that. So we've done some autocross testing just to sanity check stuff. It's been going well. So now we're going to build up to that next step where we're doing sort of a mini lapping day. So we'll get up to speeds of probably like 80, 85 miles an hour or so and start carrying some more corner velocities and speeds and things like that and start building back up to getting this thing on full road courses again, which hopefully will happen before the end of the year. It'll be good to get some seat time on a road course because it's been a minute now. But as far as changes to the car since the last video, nothing's really changed. We've just been working through issues and sanity checking things. For the most part, the car's been pretty bulletproof as far as failures. It's really just been, debugging stuff. So we're going to try some setup changes tomorrow. One of the big things that we're going to try that I haven't done yet is disconnect the rear sway bar. I've done that in the past, but I haven't done that with this new spring and damper setup. But the logic behind that is the car with the factory triangulated 4-link has a pretty high roll center, and I'll do a series of tech videos in the future going much further down the rabbit hole, but your total roll resistance is determined by your roll center height, your spring rate, and your sway bar rate, or your effective spring and sway bar rate, so your total wheel rate. And because the roll center on the rear of these cars is so high, it gives you a lot of built-in roll resistance and jacking effect that you don't necessarily want. So that combined with it being a live axle and having limited camber means that this thing's very grip limited at the back end. So as a sort of crutch to get a little more grip, we're going to soften it up at the back. I mean, we're running, I think it's like a 7/8 sway bar at full soft right now, which is pretty much as small of a sway bar as you can get back there. I don't want to soften the springs up. I have a sort of method I like to use through GPing for customers with calculating spring rates and setting cars up. I like to have reasonably stiff springs in most performance cars just for good platform control and response. But that's a topic for a different video. But the gist of it is to soften up the rear and try and get a little grip back with this setup, we're going to disconnect the rear sway bar and see how that behaves. That should give us some more rear grip, and then if anything, it's going to make the car push a little bit and understeer a little more, which is fine if we can eliminate some of that heinous oversteer, because it's pretty brutal. Especially I like to drive cars on the nose a lot of the time. So going into corners, I like to load up the front a lot, so you're already taking weight off the back, and You know, there's things you can do with the dampers, like rear rebound settings and whatnot as a kind of crutch, but then, you know, it's a compromise and you're losing stuff elsewhere. But I'm rambling at this point, so we are going to get the car all loaded up in the trailer, get this thing out to Lime Rock. I'm going to get the GoPro on it, and I'll catch up with you guys then. All right, so we are back from Lime Rock, and I am very happy to report that for the first time this year with the new setup on the car, we had a trouble-free day. We took it out of the trailer, raced it all day, put it back in the trailer, came home, and I've been longing for that feeling for some time now. The event had different segments, which you probably saw in the clips. So to start the day, they broke off the novices and first-timers, and they had a little mini course on the lower part of the autocross circuit. And then they took everybody else who was more experienced up towards the skid pad to do like some warm-up laps. So you can see in the first couple clips, it's sort of a short track where you could just go warm the car up, get a feel for everything. And it was fun. We made a couple tweaks going into the event. The first big one was adjusting the torque factor in the transmission controller. We've just been dealing with shifting issues in the trans where on upshifts, the shifts would be really aggressive and violent and knock the tires loose, so they would start spinning on shifts. And then downshifts were sluggish, and sometimes the clutches would disengage and it would like hunt for RPMs and then engage. Really frustrating stuff. I don't know if I have the SCC Autocross video posted. I likely do, but that was an issue that we were fighting in that video where I would downshift from third to second, and then it would hunt for RPM and disengage, and I was losing a bunch of time, and it was just very frustrating dealing with that. And I suspected it was some kind of small tuning issue, but it's nice to just have that solidified. So what happened with that was the trans controller has like an internal calculator that it calculates what's called a torque factor. So you give it some information about the engine, and then it spits out a value. That value ended up just being too high. The trans uses torque mapping, so it's always expecting a certain amount of torque, and it's basing its line pressures and just its controls based off that. And so the value from that calculator was too high. So I went back in, I plugged in the exact torque value from the engine dyno and solved all the issues. So that was a huge breakthrough on the trans. Upshifts are nice and crisp and smooth now. Downshifts are quick and what you'd expect. So trans is feeling really, really good now. Very happy with it, especially now that we're getting things dialed in. 100% worth it, but we'll do an update video down the line and really go in depth about our experience with the DCT now that we've been running it. Other update we did going into this was disconnecting the rear sway bar, which I talked about in the intro. The results were to be as expected. It settled the car down a lot in mid-corner, but then the car just wanted to understeer absolutely everywhere, which is, you know, what happens when you disconnect the rear sway bar. So I just had to shift my mentality and my driving approach. I'm so used to this thing wanting to snap oversteer on you, so I drive and my steering inputs line up with that, you know, expecting the rear end to always be the weak point when it comes to grip. So definitely required some mental adjustment with the car driving the complete opposite. I think it's faster that way. I just need to continue adjusting to dealing with the understeer. We're going to make a couple setup changes on the front of the car, put a little more camber in the front end to give the front a little more grip and get that dialed in. But maybe I'll go more into tire lore in a future video. But we don't want to take grip away from the end that's gripped up now, so we're going to do what we can to get the front up to match. Before we were running less camber than we absolutely had to try and find a balance. I'm a big believer in having a balanced setup. You know, if the rear end's super skittish and low grip, you don't want to maximize the grip on the front end because the car is just going to be a handful to try and drive, and that's not really fast in the real world, even though it might be theoretically. But now the rear softened up, has more grip available, we're going to bump the front up to match. We were playing around with damper settings, still getting a feel for that. Obviously we have the brand new MCS triple adjustable damper package on the car, so we're just playing around to see where in the adjustment range they like to dwell, and you know, how the car and the dampers react to different settings. I ended up having to run the dampers pretty soft at this event, softer than I would have liked to, just because there was two spots on the track where there was pretty big bumps. Going into the skid pad, there's a bumpy section where you're under heavy braking, and then also near the end of the lap when you're going into that last hairpin, there's a little straight before that, and like right as you're coming into the braking zone, there's a big bump and undulation. And over that bump, when I was running the dampers where I ideally wanted them, it wouldn't load the front end fast enough, and so the car was going into ice mode, which is pretty horrifying the first couple of times. So I ended up having to soften up the compression rebound just to get everything to where the car was happy in those two areas. I really had to dictate the entire shock setup to the big, I guess you could say, weak points or surface weaknesses on the track, which is sometimes how it goes. You know, it sucks that the car felt sluggish and unresponsive everywhere else, but I was losing so much time in those two areas that I had to basically claw it back by forfeiting a little bit of time everywhere else, but it ended up being a net gain. In the future, I'll probably go more into damper setup and how we adjust that and what the purpose is, but I figured I started giving you guys a little more insight now that we're actually adjusting and tweaking the car, you know, showing you guys what we're doing and the logic behind some of the stuff. But yeah, overall, really happy with how it went. We ended up turning a top 30 time, so we got invited, as of right now at least, to go to the Lime Rock Invitational Shootout, where they take the top 30 times from the entire year and they do a shootout amongst them. Don't expect to be too competitive there because there's pretty much no rules. It's basically don't have an open wheel car and don't have a go-kart, and aside from that, it's run what you brung. So tires are unrestricted, you can run slicks, there's no minimum weights, power, anything like that. As much as I would love to slap a set of Hoosier A7s on this, I don't know if that's really worth it to do for a single event, but maybe someday, I don't know. I really want to see what this thing's like on some actual autocross slicks. But yeah, we're moving in the right direction. It feels good. You know, it's been very disheartening just with all of the things we've been dealing with. Obviously, with a brand new setup and all the experimental stuff we're doing, we expected some hiccups and issues in debugging, but it just feels like the car's been kicking me while I'm down this year, especially when it's been stuff like the injectors and whatnot, where that's not even stuff we changed, it's just stuff that started failing sporadically. But we're finally moving in the right direction, and it's starting to make all that heartbreak worth it, where we're really starting to see the benefits, the changes that we made. The ABS is working beautifully. We got the trans pretty well dialed in now, dialing in the damper package, and we're really starting to unlock the potential of this car, which we're excited to show you guys in the next few videos. We got probably 3 or 4 more racing events to finish off the year with, and so I'm excited to see how we can develop the car and then ride that momentum into next year. But I also want to say a huge thank you to my buddy Cash, who runs a media company called Cash Media. He got all the awesome clips that you guys see in this video from outside of the car. He's incredibly skilled when it comes to photography, videography, editing, all that stuff. So if you guys need any media work done, whether that be you want pictures done of your car, maybe you need something done for your business, and you're in New England, definitely reach out to him. I'll put a link to his socials in the description of this video. He's incredibly skilled at what he does. I love his work. I work with him all the time because I think he puts out an awesome product. And I want to let you guys know about it because I'm very grateful for the amazing work he does. He makes this car look really good. So I appreciate his hard work. So big thanks to Cash for coming out. I appreciate it. But that's all we got for you guys in this video. Hopefully we'll be back racing this thing soon. I think our next video is going to be covering the Autumn Apex, which will be our last autocross for the year. And I'm really excited to see what this thing can do now that we're finally starting to get it dialed in. So I'll see you guys in the next one.